Hello there, I'm Murray Grindlay. I like to call myself a musicianeer, like the old blues guys that I love so much. And I've done a lot of stuff, a lot of music over the years. I'm 73 now, and I started when I was 15 because I was hopeless at school. And I had to get out and do what I knew was the only thing I could do. So there was this tune, this Scottish tune. It was an ancient tune, but it's a tune that my mother used to sing to me to put me to sleep, or sometimes just for a bit of a bounce on her knee. And she used to sing this beautiful song because she was a fine singer. She used to sing in a Scottish band, and in the war for the soldiers coming home. Anyway, the song I thought was always called Ally Bally Bee, but I've since found out that's not the actual title of the song. But Mum used to sing this song to me for a long, long time, and then when I had my children, I sang the song to them too, except it was here in New Zealand. So the song just lived on because I adored this song, and it was considered to be a jingle, an ad. But of course, in those days, there was no radio and there was no TV. It would be live. Do you want to hear just a little bit of the song? And it was lovely, so it goes like this. Ally Bally Bee, sitting on your mammy's knee, greeting for a wee bobby to buy some coulter's candy. Yeah. Oh, I loved it. And I came from a lovely place in Scotland. I came from a county in Stirlingshire called Stenhousemuir, and it was in the country. And within 5 minutes, I could jump on my Raleigh and be in amongst tiny little ruined castles and big woods and things like that. So it was a magic place for a boy to grow up in. But when I got here, it didn't compare to here as far as I was concerned. I mean, we got here in the summer and we went to live in St. Heliers and looking right down on the sea and, oh, God, and bare feet. These people don't wear any shoes, Mum. It's unbelievable, No, oh no, I wouldn't have liked that. I was a terrible kid, a rebel, I mean, we have a family story of me standing on the coal bunker at my granny's house, and I'm on the coal bunker yelling out at the top of my voice, probably about 8 years old, saying, Auntie Eileen, think of a stage name for me. And she'd be going, get down from there, you wee scar. I said, something like Elvis. That's good. So I had decided what I wanted to do. Somehow I wanted to make music. I wanted to be in music somehow. Oh, I loved the pictures. Yeah, I loved it. I mean, it was around about Ben-Hur and the Ten Commandments and all that stuff, so. And of course the TV was great, and of course that's how I discovered Robin Hall and Jimmy McGregor. And I used to watch this program called Cliff Mitchellmore, tonight. And it was on at 6 o'clock. It was a news program. It was a current events program. And on that show, every night he had Robin Hall and Jimmy McGregor. Jimmy McGregor used to play the guitar and sing the harmonies, and Robin Hall used to sing lead. And they were great. They were so good. And they did that song. The first time I saw them, they did my song. I said, Mom, they're doing our song. Wonderful. You know, I mean, even my parents thought it was wonderful. God, he's on the TV. You know, because they were not convinced that I was going to make a success out of music. You know, I mean, music? What do you mean? You mean like Harry Seacombe? No. Oh, it was really fun. I mean, Kevin Moore, the guy that produced and directed the show, come on.
Everybody there had a happy celebration.
Kevin loved us because as soon as we went on, the phones would be jammed with people complaining. So he really liked us because so many complaints meant that the show was really getting noticed, you know. What happened was we were playing at the Debrett's, oh my God, in the town. And like they should have had wires surrounding, you know, like in the Blues Brothers with the wire around the stage. That's what it should have been. Because I got this little scar here. This maniac threw a tiny little glass at me and hit me right there. And I thought that night, I thought, that's it. That's it. I'm finished with this $30 a week to do this. I'd sung a few jingles for other people. Anyway, I thought, look, I reckon I can do this. I can write. And so what I did was I just got my old Maori kit bag, which I had, and stuffed it full of my songs on cassettes and stuff, and started going around the agencies. I was living in Parnell at the time, in Craycroft Street. It was just after I got married too. I mean, I got married, so I had to start earning some money. And I didn't want to do, you know, real work, you know, jeez, yuck. You know, like I wanted to still be in the music business, you know, that I loved so much. So straight away I struck, wow. You know, they were all saying, wow, these songs are really good, Murray, and they don't sound like jingles at all. Can you write them like this? And like my stuff was sort of introverted and sort of, Tanya Hyde, pretty little Hyde. It was the first one I ever wrote, and it was for a suntan lotion. And I didn't even mention the product in it. I just, which was always what I tried to do. I didn't mention the product name unless they really forced me. Well, it soon transpired that I got to go into the studio a lot. I mean, later it became like every day. You know, like a few years later it would be 5 days a week, you know, in the studio from 10 in the morning till midnight, 1 o'clock, because I was doing so many. And I just loved the thing of going into the studio, even in the early days, and being somebody else for the day. After, say, Crunchy, which was one of the first big ones I did, that's when I really started getting a lot of work. I mean, the Crunchy Bar was the first one that was about 90 seconds long. All that started happening, you know. And then when I did the Travelling On things quite a few years later with Stevie Ray Vaughan and Mitch Marsden, they were like 4 minutes. Because that's what was going to happen anyway. You know, the English were doing it. The English were making wonderful ads where you saw all the advertising guys used to get them all from overseas, you know. And the English were our main thing, whereas now it feels like America's our main thing. Back then, the English were making great ads, just, you know, and a lot of funny ads, you know, really funny, you know, like with famous people, you know, like Ronnie Corbett and the two Ronnies and stuff like that. There was a great Hovis one. Oh, God, it was fantastic. That was quite unusual. Roger McDonnell, who was running Colenso at the time and is still a very good friend of mine, Roger called me in. I flew down from Auckland to Wellington because he was at Colenso Wellington, and I walked into his office and he had the lyrics written, pretty well, much all of them. And maybe I changed a couple of things, but it wouldn't have been much.
Life's a whole long journey, boys, before you grow too old. Don't miss the opportunity to strike a little gold.
I mean, it was popping off the paper at me, you know. And I grabbed my guitar and I played Crunchy immediately. Even the key change. and he was laughing his head off. He said, "That's great. Let's go to lunch." So I listened to the song, and I changed it a lot. I mean, I made it into a slow ballad, whereas it had been quite a "Dear John, oh how I hate to ride," you know, "Dear John." So I gave it that sultry thing, and especially Jackie Fitzgerald sang it so like a torch song, you know.
Dear John, oh how I hate to ride.
Dear John, you know. She was so cool. Oh, how I hate to write, really. And yeah, that was a good one. I was pretty pleased with that one. And then I think the two of them got into the American Hall of Shame, the Hall of Fame, which the advertising guys always call it the Hall of Shame. But I mean, both those ads were playing around the world on programs, you know. And it's, hey, little old New Zealand, hey, it's not bad, is it? You know. I didn't have collaborators for writing, really. I did when I really started doing a lot. I thought, man, I need a bit of help. And I got a great guy, Murray McNabb. So it was the two Muzzes, you know, like we used to call each other Muzz. I was like, "Hey, Muzz," he said, "Yeah, okay, Muzz." Yeah. It was funny. And he was a brilliant musician, brilliant. He was a keyboard player, a pianist. And he showed me, he taught me a lot about music, you know. He was absolutely wonderful. He's gone now, poor old Muzz. I miss him dearly. He was with me for 25 years. 25 years. We were in the room with no windows, we used to call them. He was my musical director. And he was wonderful too, because we were getting into orchestras by this time. You know, it's like, wow, well, what haven't we done? I know, let's start working with orchestras. Come on, we can do this. If it had been me by myself, it would have been really hard. Imagine it, I would have had to hum them all their parts. It wouldn't have been a good look. I think the most popular one we ever did was for Mainland Cheese. Da 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 da. That one, with the two old guys going, "Oh well, you know, those hooks, they're still, I'm still doing the same hook, you know." Yeah. Mainland things take a bit longer, you know, a bit longer.
Yep. You know, I always thought that me and Billy Willis would be good friends, but we'll see. These things take time, you know.
Yeah, I did a bit of recording in Australia because it got so big, especially when we were using the orchestras and the huge brass sections. I know that my New Zealand fellow musicians won't be too insulted, but I hope not anyway. But we used to go to Australia because we could afford to. We had so much money for the budget. You know, the budgets were huge. And so we could go to Australia and to use their orchestras and their brass outfits, and they were better. And the reason that they were better is that they played all the time, and not just in a classical situation. You know, the people that we used here were used to just being in a classical situation, not a popular music situation. You know, so they had to learn how to do that. But there was a lot of, there was one string section that we used a lot in Sydney. My God, they were wonderful. You know, like the intonation is the main thing, you know. To be in tune is like a really good start, you know. And they were masters at it, you know, they were so good. God, yeah. I was doing a mainland thing with Charlie Pride, and I did it over in Melbourne. I was using Tim's studio, Tim Finn's studio. Charlie was a little bit late, so I was out on the footpath, stressing slightly, you know, sort of going, oh, where is he? Where is he? Jesus, I hope nothing's happened. And anyway, then a big black windowed limousine pulls up quite a way away from me. I thought, well, why don't they come down here? But they didn't. And then these two mountain men got out, these two white guys that looked like Hell's Angels, basically. You know, big cowboy hats. So they got out. And then I see this one big long leg coming out, because Charlie's really tall. And it's Charlie Pride. I think, oh, thank God for that. It's him. So he's there and he's out and he's not stood up yet. He's still crouching. And he starts walking towards me. And he's still crouching. He's not standing up and walking towards me. He's going like this. And I'm thinking, God, what's happening here? Oh, God, I hope he's going to be able to sing. Jesus, what's going on? And he got right up to me and he stood up right in front of my face. And I got a big blast of whiskey and he said, I had you there, didn't I? I had you. I thought, Jesus, fucking childish bastard. Perfectionism. Because I am. That's shocking, actually. Sometimes I do it when I don't really need to, but I've always been that way. You know, I can tend to hear little things, you know, like the singer's just slightly out of tune on that note going up. Maybe we could just get her to do that one more time. And, you know, stuff like that. You know, because you want it to be as good. Because all my heroes, that's what they did. You know, like Aretha Franklin and all those incredible singers, you know, who were never out of tune, ever. I mean, they didn't even think about it. It just happened naturally, you know, that's how good it was, you know. But I have had the odd film director. In fact, there was one especially that I always remember when I was fussing about this vocal, and he looked at me and he said, oh, I don't think this tuning's all it's cracked up to be, you know. You can imagine the withering glance he got. Oh, God, that was a laugh a minute. That was great fun. Oh, everyone was in on that one. Well, all the 80s people, you know. Well, because I had to record them all in the studio. Barry was just great, you know. And that voice of his, you know, he was fantastic.
One people on the land.
It's New Zealand all together.
Kiwis working hand in hand.
I mean, I wouldn't accept a horribly out of tune thing off anyone, you know, never in a month of Sundays would I accept that. But all of these people were pros, you know. I don't think we had any intonation problems at all that I can think of, except was Barry. But for once, Barry proved that other guy that I told you that said, I don't think this tuning's all it's up to. It's made out to be. Barry proved him right, because Barry was miles out of tune, but it sounded fantastic. You know? I always found the jingles so easy because even if they didn't give you any lyrics, which they often didn't, I would come up with the idea myself, and I liked that freedom as well. It was different. It was different. And then all of a sudden, all this stuff was coming from England, as I said, and they were doing the same thing. The Americans, a little bit, not so much. They were still in that glitzy era. This would have been in the late 70s again. And Roger Donaldson, bless him, who I did a lot of ads with. And Roger did lots of ads. I mean, all of the film directors did, you know, because it was a way to stay afloat, you know. And so he came to me one day and he told me about his new film with Sam Neill. Dave Caldwell was doing the score. And what Roger wanted me to do was write a bunch of songs that could be used in the movie for certain parts. For instance, Don't Look Back, I wrote, and he used that for the intro. He used that for the theme.
Drop me a line if you find you've the time, and let me know how you're doing now. Yeah, maybe someday we might just meet up again, though I don't think so somehow.
It's really funny being a songwriter when you're in the crowd and like you're seeing the movie for the first time, and all of a sudden someone leans forward and shuts your tune up. You go, what the bloody hell? What? You know, I mean, actually it was Sam Neill. Don't look back, and then after a while, Sam just leans forward and clicks it off. I'll never forget it. I just went, oh, Sam, it could have lasted a wee bit longer, you know. Anyway. Lee did a lot of jingles, and Lee's jingles were always the best. He was a fabulous filmmaker to start with. At least 6 years he'd been on the scene, because I'd been on longer than him. I'd been on longer than anyone. You know, it was hilarious. I was the old-timer. But he came to us. I think they'd got someone else to do it first, but they weren't happy. So they came to myself and Murray McNabb. And it was a venture that Murray and I did together. It wasn't Murray working for me as usual. It was Muzz and Muzz did this movie. And it worked out really well because we got the award for it, so that was really cool. Lee took us down to Wellington to see a rough cut. And much to our delight, Lee had no temp music on it. No, that's the way to do it. I hate it when they put music on, especially if it's Ry Cooder or Pink Floyd. You know, I mean, how you want us to do something even better than that? You know, it's not fair. You know, I hate it. They still bloody do it because they claim they need it for cutting. You know, but the only trouble is then you change the music. Wow, it's quite a big thing. But Lee took us down and he played it to us in a little theatre. There was a lot of other people there. He played it to us and wow, it was so raw without the music. I mean, even rawer than it was with the music, you know. It was just incredibly raw. And I mean, I think Muzz and I actually looked at each other and read each other's minds. We sort of looked at each other and it was sort of like, fuck, how do we get out of this? You know? But no, that thought only hovered for a second or so. And then we got stuck into it. One of the first things that I did was I found this master Maori musician, Hirani Melbourne, and he played all these, he brought them all in, you know, all these Maori instruments. I'd never heard of any of them. I thought, what, you're kidding? You know, there was about 30 of them spread on this big rug. But there was things like the bull roar, you know, the yeah, which we used a lot in Once Were Warriors. It worked great. Murray McNabb would go to Hirani sometime and say, Hirani, show me what notes you can get. And Hirani would show him, and it might only be about 3 different notes. And Muzz would go away and work something out for those 3 beautiful notes, you know, and say, can you play this, you know? And there was a lot of that going on, and Hirani had a ball, you know. Well, it always changes, you know. I mean, gee whiz, I mean, I did it for 40 years, and that's a long time, and changed my style a little bit accordingly, but not really, you know. I always did what I liked. Now, I mean, there's a lot of good jingles out there. There's heaps of good ones. Mostly they're instrumental and very quick. You know, like, you know, wow, you know, but it's good, and there's a bunch of good musicians doing it too. You know, it's mostly done on machines, I think. But that's an art form too. You know, that's an art form, absolutely. Murray McNabb used to often laugh, you know. I mean, we'd have been in the studio from 10 o'clock, it would be 6 o'clock at night, and I would say to him, I'd say, Muzz, this is just not working. It's just not working, man. And he'd look at me and I'd say, get the machines out. You know, the drums and the bass. So everything was absolutely in time, because it wouldn't have been... You know, I prefer still the real thing, but occasionally. Advice? Well, you know, there's no tricks, you know. I mean, really what you're doing is, well, have a really broad knowledge of music. That's a good one to have. I mean, I loved all music, all of it, you know. If it's good, I'm loving it. So that's a very important one. You have to have a broad, and the young people today, I would advise for them to go back, and I'm sure they do anyway, it's such an obvious one, go back in time. And because there was a golden age, you know, there's no doubt about it. You know, there was a time, and become au fait with it all, whilst not losing track on what you're doing these days, because music's different these days. The young people have a different sensibility on certain things, But I don't see any harm in education at all, I mean, pick up what you can, because don't forget, what I had is hard to get now. You see, well, like when I was in the Underdogs, for instance, like we would play 6 nights a week, every night, and lunchtimes during the week. That was at a club called the Galaxy down the bottom of town. And all the kids that were going to the offices, I mean, the place would be packed at lunch for 2 hours. And so we're getting all that experience of playing as a group, as a band. And see, it's hard for the kids to get that one now, I mean, where do you play? I mean, I know there's still gigs. Of course there is. There's still gigs, but it wasn't like that. I didn't do enough films to... And I'm not sorry I didn't do any other films. They were hard work. They were really hard work and pretty badly paid too. And you'd come up against the committees all the time, Whereas in the advertising world at that time, there was none of that, Not when we were doing it. It was, like they just gave you the rope to hang yourself, really. And it was, usually it worked, I mean, 9 times out of 10 it would work. And everyone would be really happy. Just leave it to us, it'll be cool. I didn't play a lot of music. I used to do the advertising parties, but I'd form a band and do that. But I enjoyed the studio too much. It was what I wanted to do. It was write songs. And this gave me the opportunity to do it. It was fantastic, it's really good. I had a whale of a time. But now that I'm an old geezer, I'm going to go back to that. I'm just getting ready to make an album now, and I'll tour it and have some fun.